Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. So today I launch a new video series all about the hard mode dungeons. Now we will be getting into all 4 dungeons over the coming weeks, but in today's video we are going to cover the Dragon's Lair. So I'm going to talk about the difference between normal Dragon's Lair and hard mode Dragon's Lair, some considerations for building your team compositions and champions, and I'll even give you 2 different examples of teams that can get the job done. So if you are ready to upgrade into the hard mode Dragon's Lair, today's video has got you covered. I hope you're ready for it. Let's get started. Before we get started, just a reminder, I live stream every Tuesday at 1 p.m. I do my live Takeover Tuesdays where I give away free account takeovers to members of my Discord community. So if you are interested in getting a free takeover or you just like takeover content, you should join us tomorrow. That's Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time right here on the YouTube channel. You don't have to go anywhere else. So don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and also consider joining our Discord community. Thanks so much. Now let's get to the video. Okay, so here we are once again at hellhades.com. You know, this is one of my favorite resources for Raid Shadow Legends. And hh.com has undergone some updates in recent months. And we're going to talk about one of the updated pages today. So if you come here to the Raid Shadow Legends drop-down menu, you can go to the Dungeon and Clan Boss section and pick the dungeon that you are interested in. Here, we're going to look at the Dragon Dungeon Boss Guide. Okay, so we are going to land on the boss guide page for the Dragon Boss. Now, I've already selected stage 25 normal. So this gives you the full stats of whatever stage you're looking for. So if you wanted to look at a different stage, say you wanted to do stage 11, you could look at stage 11, and it does take a little second to load, but you get a lot of information. One of the nice things about this page is you also have these interactive buttons for the boss skills. So you can click through those skills and it gives you a lot of information, even more information than is in the game, because it includes multipliers. So you know why the damage is being done or how the damage is being done. One of the really key pieces of information is the amount of accuracy that's required. So you can see it's 100 accuracy required to place skill effects on the enemy on stage 11. So let's go back to stage 25 here of normal mode, because this is the hardest version of normal mode. And you should be familiar already. If you are watching this video, you should be familiar with normal dragon, but you might be wanting to take on hard mode, or maybe you've even started hard mode already. And so we want to talk about the differences here. So here is the stats for stage 25, and then let's look at stage 10 hard. Now, I will say this, the stat requirements for the hard mode dungeons ramp up considerably. The first 5 stages are a lot easier than the last 5 stages. So if you go all the way back down to stage 5 of hard mode, and you look at the stats here, for instance, you can see the speed here is 125. It's only 125. Right? You can see the resistance is 245, so the accuracy requirement is 270. Now, this is stage 5 of hard mode. This is not significantly more stats than the stage 25 normal mode. Now, the boss does have more stats. It has slightly different skills. We'll go over that in a second. But if you can clear stage 25 of normal mode pretty consistently, chances are, especially for Dragon more than the other dungeons, you're going to be able to push up into hard mode with the team that you're already running. Now, it may require some tweaks. You may require slightly better gear. You may require a slightly more advanced Great Hall or some area bonuses. If you need to get the stats and you don't quite have them, then there are other places than just gear to get the stats. Think about those area bonuses. This is a great dungeon to be running for speed gear specifically, but any reason you would run the normal dungeon. The nice thing is there are no additional energy requirements. So it's the same amount of energy to run hard mode as it is to run stage 25 of normal mode. So you're just getting better drop rates for a slightly harder fight with no additional investment of resources in terms of energy. Okay, so let's look at the stats here at stage 10 of hard mode and compare them to the stats for stage 25 of normal. So as you can see here, we have about 4.5 million health in normal, and then 9.5 million health in hard mode. So more than double the health. In addition, attack and defense is more than doubled, and the speed here at stage 25 is 100, whereas the speed of the boss here is 250. That's actually the biggest change. The other major significant kind of consideration for you when you're building champions is the resistance here is 320 versus a resistance of 200. So you're going to need an extra 120 accuracy. You want to shoot for about 350 accuracy for your champions. Again, remember your area bonuses and any bonuses you might get from your masteries or passives, like maybe you have an increased accuracy buff from a champion that could be factored into these hard mode dungeons because the stat requirements are very high. So if you can't get the stats from your gear, you can get them from other places. Let's talk about the difference in skills. So the skills are basically all the same for Dragon. There aren't significant changes here. There are two skills that are changed in ways that you need to consider. So the first is the A2 here, which is called Mephitic Fire. Now this places 4 poison debuffs for 3 turns and a weaken for 2 turns. That is an increase from 2 poisons and a 1-turn weaken. In addition, this also gives an increased attack to the dragon. So what that means is the second time around, or the next attack after this attack is going to hit a lot harder. We do want to try to one-shot the boss if we can, and we're going to talk about team compositions in just a second. But if we can't, we're going to need some way to deal with this weaken and these extra poisons. The second major skill change is this Toxic Incineration. So now this attack, the stun can't be resisted. So you can't resist the stun anymore. In addition, it instantly activates the damage from all of the poisons. So having the poisons up, and there are a lot of poisons, can be problematic. So again, this is the unlocked skill. This is the one where you have the purple bar, so you can avoid it by burning through that purple bar, just the same as in normal mode Dragon's Lair. The only additional passive that we're worried about, or the only changes to the passives that we're worried about, is this Awakened Weakness. Basically what this says is this decreases the damage inflicted by the boss for each awakening level on the target champion, and increases the damage received by the boss for each awakening level on the attacking champion. So awakening levels matter. If you can bring champions in here with awakening stars, they will take less damage and they will do more damage. And that generally is just a flat bonus in addition to whatever blessings you're bringing. Okay, so now let's go into the game and actually look at some team compositions. Okay, so here I am on my main account. It is a level 100 free-to-play account. It is fully free-to-play, and I'm about 2.5 years into the game. So remember that if you don't have the champions that I am putting into my teams today, that's okay. You are just looking to fill those roles. Again, I'm assuming that if you are trying hard mode dungeons, even Dragon, which is probably the easiest or earliest one that you can get into, you are several months into the game. You probably at least have your Seal of the Drakes. Maybe you have your Mithrala. Maybe not. That's okay to get into it earlier than that. But I am not expecting really early game players to be getting into the hard mode dungeon, even the Dragon's Lair. So don't yell at me if you don't have these champions or you don't have the gear levels or the stats available. That's just a requirement. You need the stat levels. But the good news is, like I said, stage 1 is so much easier than stage 10 that chances are you can get at least a few stages in. And let's go take a look at the stages so you can see what I mean. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the speeds especially ramp up quickly. But the first 5 stages are much, much slower than the next 5 stages. In fact, I think the speed at stage 1 is 100 and at stage 5 is like 150. And then it jumps up to 175, and then you're getting 25 speed per level all the way up to, I think, a speed of 250 for stage 10. So what that means is even if you don't have the champions or the stats that I have on your champions, you should be able to get through at least the first few stages of hard mode, which is, again, it's all 20 energy. So it's more efficient to farm any of these stages, literally any of them, than farming stage 25 of normal mode. Again, stage 25 of normal mode, you can see here, is 20 energy. So it may be a little bit faster to do that particular stage, but you get better drop rates here. You got a chance of mythic items dropping, and it's basically all benefit. There's no downside here except for the fact that it might be slower. So as long as you have a 100% chance of clearing, even if you can just do stage 1, you'd rather farm stage 1 here than stage 25 in normal mode. But I do think you're likely to push up to at least stage 5, maybe even stage 6. Stage 6 is a really nice place to farm because it's void affinity. So you don't have to worry about weak hitting with any of your champions or taking extra extra damage because you're weak affinity on any of your champions. And the speed requirement here is only, I believe, 150, so it's still really manageable. And again, one of the big things about these dungeons in hard mode is you have to deal with the waves. So again, I think the speed of the waves is manageable and the HP and defense of the waves is manageable. So you're likely to get through the first few stages relatively quickly. But I'm going to be working on stage 10 today, and I'm going to take you through 2 different team compositions that I put together that can clear stage 10. Okay, so here is my first team. Now, I haven't done much with the AI in terms of setup. You could definitely do that, but this is a poison-based team. Now, poison-based teams can be really good ways to not only clear the waves, but then do good damage to the boss. The boss does get poison damage reduction, but that's okay. You still probably want HP burns and poisons on the boss because that's going to be the easiest way to do huge chunks of damage. He's got a massive HP pool. Remember, this is probably at stage 10. What did we say? He's double the HP pool of stage 25. So even with the damage reduction to poisons, he still takes a ton of damage from poisons. Now, what I have here is basically 2 AoE poison appliers. So I have Venomage, who can apply an AoE poison, and then I have Corvus, who I've been wanting to put in a video for a while, and he has AoE poisons as well. In addition, I have Mithrala, who puts out AoE Hex, has poisons on her A1, and brings me a ton of really useful survivability skills, including a cleanse. And that's really important here, because remember, you get all those poisons from the boss, and so you're going to want to be able to either block them or cleanse them. I also have Anarl here as one of my major damage dealers. She is an old school poison exploder, so she will wipe out the waves if they have enough poisons on them. She also does pretty good chunk damage against the boss. And then I have Elva Autumnborn as my lead, who gives me a little bit more speed in terms of the speed aura. She also gives me another cleanse and a revive in case I need it. So just a little bit of security here. You don't necessarily need this much defense on a team. You can go pure poison explosion. So if you have a Calvalax, if you have a Theodore, you can just put more and more poisons out on the waves. You could also use a reset champion like a Kymar that could help you cycle those poisons and poison explosions around more quickly. And you don't necessarily need an exploder like Elenarl. You could just go with mass AoE poisons. Now, Theodores, multiple copies of Theodores are often used on the fastest teams, as are multiple copies of Calvalax. So just to give you an idea, if you are a spender, maybe you have multiple copies of those champions. I've seen teams that are like 2 Calvalaxes and 3 Theodores, and that's it. They don't have anything else. Calvalax gives you your speed aura, and then it's just poisons all the way, and you just rip through the waves and kill the boss really quickly. I don't have that luxury, so what I'm going here with is just a bunch of different champions. You could also mix in some crowd control here if you wanted. So for instance, if you don't have Elva, you could go with, say, Syl of the Drakes in this spot. Don't make her the lead. Then you want to make maybe Corvus the lead, or one of the increased accuracy champions the lead if you are lacking on stats. So that's really a nice thing about Venomage, is she has an increased accuracy aura, so you can always put her in that spot. Or if you have your Mithrala, she has an even better increased accuracy aura. So there are lots of flexibilities, like lots of options here for this team composition. Don't be afraid to mix and match and experiment to see which kind of AoE poison team works the best. You could even mix in, say, like an RTAC with an AoE HP burn if you wanted. Typically, activations are better because a single HP burn is not going to be enough by itself. That's why poisons tend to be better. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this one. Now, I am going to run this on auto. Like I said, I haven't done really anything with the AI here, but what you're going to see is a lot of poisons are going to go out, and then this wave is basically going to come close to disappearing, and that's when Elenarl does the poison explosion. Mithrala gets the Hex out first. Then we've got some poisons from Venomage, more poisons, and then the poison explosion. You see, it's not quite enough to wipe out the wave, but it does most of the work in that first set of skills. And then we just kind of pick away at the remaining champions. This is why having Elva and Mithrala here really help, because they just provide a lot of sustain. I take my damage to my shields. I don't get any debuffs, and I can just kind of cycle through the skills and keep going. So we'll finish off this wave and go to wave number 2. And then we're going to basically get the same opening. There may be some differences based on where the skills have cycled. And we'll see when Elenarl actually pops her skill. Hopefully it won't take too long. Oh, well, it's not on the right cycle right now. But if you don't have a poison exploder, this is what it'll look like. You can see that most of these champions get chunked out pretty well. And in fact, it takes a little bit of time. This isn't super fast. The next team composition will be faster. But this has a high chance of success, especially because of the Mithrala here just providing so much sustain. There we go. Now we nuked out the wave, and now we're on to the boss. Now, poisons on the boss help as well. You don't really need the poison reduction, but remember that the poison reduction from Venom Mage does also activate her passive so that the boss will do 15% less damage. And that's really great because the boss is going to hit me in this team composition. We'll see if Elenarl can blow through this purple bar. I don't know if her skill is back around. She doesn't have any poisons up anyway. So we took the stuns because we didn't have the block debuffs up on everybody. But now we've cycled back around, and you can see here that even at stage 10, with the champions and the stats that I have on these champions and the gear that I have on these champions, it's not a huge problem. I will show you their stats in just a moment. So the boss will get a few turns. Like I said, I don't have the AI set up. If you set up the AI, you could make this more consistent and faster. The last time I ran the same exact comp, it was done in about 2.5 minutes. And as you can see at 2.5 minutes here, now we're not even close to done. In fact, the boss only got 1 attack on that run. So there is some RNG here without the AI program specifically. But I would still say, if it's under a 4-minute run, that's not too bad for stage 10. That's about double my time for stage 25 of normal mode, which I think is around like a minute 45, minute 50. And that's reasonable for the extra drop rate. When you think no extra energy, but you basically get such a better chance of getting 6 stars, of getting legendaries, and of getting mythic gear. So let's hope we can just finish this off. There we go. Okay. Elenarl does actually have an HP burn on her A1, I believe. So that may be the HP burn that you saw. Okay. So like I said, I'll show you the stats here for these champions. I don't know what the stat requirements really are because every team is going to be different, but I will show you what I've done with these champions. So my Mithrala is built basically for Hydra Clan boss, and everywhere she's in an all-around build. As much accuracy as you can get onto her. You can see that my HP is pretty good. It's not phenomenal for Mithrala. It's at 62,000, which, like I said, is good, but not phenomenal. But very good accuracy over 600, which means her resist is really high as well. And her speed is over 260. Here's my Elva Autumnborn. She does have a single set of immortal gear on for a little bit of additional sustain. She's running at 237 speed, and she does have almost 58,000, looks like around 58,000 HP. Pretty good defense at 3,800. So fairly tanky Elva. Corvus is in Guardian set, so he does have some regen and he's protecting everybody a little bit. He does have a lot of defense here. I've got him at over 5,500 defense, and he's looking not particularly bulky in his terms of his HP at around 48,000 HP. You can see his accuracy is also a little bit lower than I would want it. So I could get some value out of having an accuracy lead here, but the resistance on the waves is lower than the resistance on the boss, and he's actually built for other content anyway. So this wasn't a specific build for this composition. Here's my Elenarl. She is in reflex gear because I want that poison explosion to be coming around more often. I've actually built her tanky. She doesn't have a ton of attack. She doesn't have crit rate or a ton of crit damage. I needed her with a bit of accuracy. Again, I could use more. None of these champions were specifically built for this team composition. I'm just showing you the stats so you get an idea of what kind of stats you need to get the job done with whatever champions you're running. And finally, my Venom Mage is in a solo build. She's actually, I think she's capable of soloing stage 25 of normal mode in Dragon on her own. That's what she was built for. I do have her in a blood shield ring for Cintranos because she was working on one of the stages with the Scarab boss there. But you can see, again, the accuracy here is around 256. The speed is just about 245 or so. She does have a pretty healthy HP pool at 70, looks like 72,000, and defense is around 2,900. Okay, so as far as this composition is concerned, I'm sure you could do this fight with fewer stats and less survivability. You could go for more damage. You could definitely clear it faster than I cleared it. So, that's a consideration. And also, obviously, the champions that you have. If you don't have a poison exploder, but you have another AoE poisoner like Theodore, who may have some poison activation. So poison activation isn't the same as poison explosion. Poison explosion wipes out all of the poisons simultaneously, whereas poison activation will activate certain number of stacks. But poison activation can be a great way to speed up the wave clear as well. All right, now let's look at a slightly faster team composition that's not built around poisons. Okay, so here is a team composition that's utilizing a little bit maybe more rare champions, harder champions to get. Obviously, I have my Cardiel in the lead. You do not need Cardiel in the lead. Again, you could use Elva in this spot. This is just the team that I happen to run. I put Cardiel everywhere I can, obviously. Newt is the primary damage dealer for the boss, but Seer does the wave clear. And this is a team that is set up really for two fights. One setup is to clear waves, and one setup is to kill the boss. So Seer will probably die on the boss, and that's fine because we just want her out of the way so she's not wasting turns anyway. Emic is here for a little bit of cooldown reduction, but you could use Painkeeper in this spot. He gives a little bit more survivability than a Painkeeper would, but it probably doesn't matter. Painkeeper would do the same job that Emic is doing here. Now, Lydia's really nice as a team setup champion. She helps out Seer a lot. She's going to give you a strengthen buff, an increased speed buff. She's also going to give the enemy a decrease defense and a weaken. So she's bringing a lot of the things that increase damage overall. You can see there are no poisons on this team, although you could do this with poison champions as well. Now, I have put this setup into the AI, and I will show you these champions. So Cardiel is running at 249. His stats don't matter so much. He's fairly tanky at over 4K defense and 47,500 HP. He actually does have 100% crit rate because I like him to do a bit of damage. My Newt, you can see, is at 227 speed, 100% crit rate. He does have 43K HP and over 4,000 defense. He's not the best built Newt in the world, but he hits the accuracy numbers, which is nice. For other hard mode dungeons, you don't need the accuracy here in this particular fight. Emic is probably my fastest champion, I think, at 275. I'm not sure if Lydia is faster. You can see he's relatively tanky at 62,000 HP and 4,200 defense. He also has low accuracy because he doesn't need accuracy. So you don't really need any accuracy here on Emic. Yeah, Lydia is my second fastest champion at 259. She has the accuracy. She absolutely needs it. So you need to have her at, 350 accuracy or higher. Again, HP and defense, because we just want her to survive. My Seer is in a Savage set. I think she's also in a Cruel set, so she does a lot of damage, ignores defense. You can see she's running at 223 speed, which isn't super fast, but that's fine. 100% crit rate. I would like more crit damage on her if I could get it. Accuracy can be nice on Seer, but it's like maybe your last concern, right? Because you do damage based on stripping buffs off of your own team. So even if you don't strip buffs off of the enemy team, that might be fine. If you're going first, they don't have buffs up anyway. And obviously it doesn't matter against the boss. So these are not god tier stats, but they are relatively well-built champions for this stage of the game. Okay, so let's fire this up and see how it goes. All right, so we're going to get a setup here from our 3 support champions, and then we'll get a Newt throwaway attack and then a nuke by Seer. We will get the cooldown reduction here from Emic on the first skill, which is nice, but it's only a 1-turn cooldown reduction. So we will have to cycle through our skills at least once before Seer will be able to nuke again. Now, if you have a Renegade, you can use her for a 2-turn cooldown reduction, which would be faster. But again, here we got to the boss in 31 seconds. So quite a bit faster than our other run. Yeah, poisons aren't necessarily slow. The poison teams can work quite fast, actually. It's just that my poison explosion team is slower than my Seer team, but both are viable options for this content. And I think having a good wave clearing setup is going to help you in all of the hard mode dungeons, because the waves in the hard mode dungeons just have so many stats that you need to find a way to burn through them relatively quickly. And so these are the two most common ways: poison explosions or poison activations, and then a seer comp. Now, in this case, on the boss, we don't have the extra damage from the poisons, but we do have the Newt, who is rocking out with the damage. If you don't have a Newt, you can try another heavy damage dealer. The best one you got, basically, you want to try. Remember that stage 10 is void affinity, so it doesn't matter what affinity your champion is. You could even try it with, say, a Cold Heart. You could use an Acrisia. You could use a Ninja. Maybe you could use an Ogre. An Ogre could be really good, potentially. So if you have the latest fusion champion, she might do a really good job here. And there we go. So a minute 50, which is a decent time here. That's not much slower. I think that's right around the speed of my stage 25 team as well. So if we actually take a look here. Yeah, all right, so my fastest team on stage 25 is faster than I thought. It's a minute 7. But I think the team that I'm running typically clears it in about a minute and a half. So it's not much slower to run stage 10 of hard mode. And again, like I said before, same amount of energy, much better drop rates. You may as well be farming here for tournaments and stuff rather than farming stage 20, where the drops are just not going to be as helpful. Okay, so what are the big considerations here? You definitely need a team that can handle the waves, so you want to consider at least dedicating 2 or 3 champions to the wave clear. You're going to want some kind of champion who helps you survive the boss itself. So you're going to need a cleanse, maybe a block debuffs. You might want a reviver, like a Scylla of the Drakes could work really well there if that's the best kind of support champion for this. And she helps you in the waves as well by providing an AoE stun. That's not too bad. Make sure that you program your AI so that your wave clear is as efficient as possible, and also that your opening on the boss is the right opening to allow you, hopefully, to burn through that first purple bar. That's going to increase your survivability. Now, if you have the actual champions and gear to one-shot the boss, so the boss never really gets a chance to go, you want to do that. Obviously, that's the best setup, but that usually requires either duplicate copies of somebody like Theodore or Calvalax, or at the very least a reset champion like Yumiko or Kaimar. So that's about it. If you have any questions, please put those in the comments below. Likewise, please share your team compositions. I love to hear about other team compositions. If you have team compositions that are significantly different than mine, maybe you don't have a seer comp, maybe you don't have a poison explosion comp, and you have some other way to handle the waves, then I'd love to hear about that as well. All right, that is it for me. Thanks so much for hanging out. I have been Colred, and I will see you in another video soon.